Welcome to the Highlights from Ukraine podcast, your daily audio summary of the latest news reported in the Ukrainian media. My name is Artem, and here is the news. For 357 days, Ukraine stands strong against the forces of the Russian invasion. Yesterday was the second day of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group, known as Rammstein format, meeting at NATO headquarters in Brussels, reports Interfax Ukraine. The group unites defense ministers and other high-level officials from over 50 states that provide military support to Ukraine or consider doing so. NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg informed that defense ministers of NATO countries on Wednesday agreed to increase the production of weapons and munitions. They plan to cooperate with companies in the military industry for this. According to Stoltenberg, countries such as the United States, France, Germany, Norway have already made decisions that will increase the production of ammunition. He said that the situation is developing in the right direction. NATO allies agreed on a project for the preliminary storage and accumulation of ammunition and the deployment of ground-based air defense systems to reflect the reality that we live in a more dangerous world, Stoltenberg added. Minister of Defense of Germany Boris Pistorius said that it would be difficult for the Western allies to raise 2 full battalions of Leopard 2 tanks to send them to Ukraine as were promised before, reports Ukrainska Pravda. According to him, Germany and Portugal are the only 2 countries that have pledged to send the Leopard 2 A6 to Ukraine. 14 tanks have been pledged by the government in Berlin and 3 by Portugal, which is not enough. As Pistorius states, Poland has put together about 30 pieces of the old version of the Leopard 2, which is almost enough for a standard Ukrainian battalion of 31 tanks. However, many of those are in poor condition and need repairs before they may be deployed. He added that these tanks will arrive in Ukraine only at the end of April. At the end of January, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said that Germany and its allies would quickly form 2 battalions of main battle tanks for Ukraine, and the United States promised to send 31 units of M1 Abrams tanks. If you like what we do and would like to support us, you can subscribe to our Patreon, send us a one-time tip via PayPal by following the link below, or simply by recommending us to your friends. The Swedish defense minister said after the Rammstein meeting that the country has received a request from the Ukrainian side to provide Gripen fighter jets of its own production, reports European Pravda. He clarified that there are currently restrictions associated with such assistance. According to the minister, this aircraft is crucial for maintaining Swedish territorial integrity and sovereignty, and providing it to Ukraine will be a serious obstacle in terms of national defense resources. At the same time, the minister said that at the moment the priority for Sweden is to strengthen the Ukrainian air defense system. He added that Sweden plans to start sending and training the Ukrainian military on more than 50 CV-90 combat vehicles next week. Prime Minister of Sweden Ulf Kristersson visited Ukraine yesterday, including the occupied part of the Kyiv region, and met President Volodymyr Zelensky, reports Interfax Ukraine. The Prime Minister assured that Sweden intends to provide Ukraine with as much support as necessary, both economic and military. According to him, Ukraine is a priority of Sweden's foreign policy and EU presidency. Quote, Putin is mistaken if he believes that time is on his side, unquote. Kristersson reminded about the military aid package announced by Sweden back in mid-January, worth over 380 million euros. The package includes 51 armored vehicles CV-90, Archer self-propelled howitzers, anti-tank systems, NLAW, and other weapons. The Prime Minister said that the aid will be delivered as soon as possible. According to the U.S. Institute for the Study of War, the timely Western provisions of tanks and armored vehicles to Ukraine would further offset Russia's ability to conduct mechanized warfare as Russia struggles to restart its defense production in the immediate term, reports Ukrainska Pravda. The experts believe that Ukraine likely continues to have a window of opportunity to initiate large-scale counteroffensives over the next few months. But its ability to do so likely rests heavily on the speed and scale at which the West provides it the necessary material, particularly tanks and armored vehicles. President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky said that a real new year will begin for Ukraine on February 24th, and the Ukrainians believe that this year will be victorious, reports Radio Liberty. At a press conference after talks with the Swedish Prime Minister, Zelensky was asked what feelings he has about the upcoming anniversary of the full-scale Russian aggression against Ukraine. The president said that it was the most difficult year in the history of independent Ukraine. The president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, informed in his evening video address that it is important to ensure that this spring it is truly felt that Ukraine is moving towards victory. This applies to the training of Ukraine's forces, the supply of weapons, and the strategic initiative in the war. Any attempts by Russia to retake the initiative must be stopped. And I am confident that we will do so, stressed the president. According to him, the enemy is already losing so many of its people, so many of its forces, that it will soon be difficult to find, for example, a marine throughout Russia. Zelensky assured that the liberation of Ukrainian land is the goal we are working on every day. The Defense Intelligence Agency of Ukraine informed that the enemy's losses are now the greatest since the beginning of a full-scale invasion, reports Channel 24. The intelligence agency stressed that the situation in Donbas is now a priority for the occupiers. At the same time, it did not rule out the activation of enemy forces in other sectors of the front. Deputy Defense Minister of Ukraine Hanna Maliar also informed that losses in some of the units of Wagner mercenaries and Russian army amount to up to 80% of personnel, reports LBUA. Evacuation of the dead and wounded by the enemy is limited or not carried out at all. According to her data, only one training center in Rostov region of Russia weekly sends about 500 hastily trained mobilized, most of whom undergo an accelerated training course from 14 to 21 days. She added that getting into the units, such servicemen not wanting to perform the role of suicide squads resort to intentionally damaging military equipment, mainly engines, which without firing a single shot is sent to repair bases with full ammunition. The president informed that he held a meeting on the economic recovery of Ukraine, creation of the economic opportunities for Ukrainian people and industries. Volodymyr Zelensky announced that the government is preparing new significant steps to deregulate the Ukrainian economy. The business will benefit from simplification in dozens of areas, including the abolition of various bureaucratic permits and licenses. Steps are also being prepared to create jobs. The president emphasized that every job created contributes to Ukraine's resilience, and it is a way to bring Ukrainians back from abroad. Humanitarian land demining remains a key issue for the agricultural sector. He also assured that Ukraine is doing everything to prepare for the start of negotiations on EU membership already this year. As our format is designed to give you only the most important news, we feel that on some topics more in-depth discussion is needed, and that is exactly what we are doing. In a new segment called Long Talk, we discuss different topics in and around Ukraine with invited guests, from experts to eyewitnesses and ordinary Ukrainians who lived through the war. Our first episode on Ukraine's war economy is already out. Be sure to check it out wherever you listen to our podcast. We call on you to demand from governments of your countries to impose the toughest sanctions possible on Russia and its citizens to stop their invasion of Ukraine.